Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. This week we're going to cover a few topics, do the usual stuff, and prepare for what is coming, which is the holidays. Let's begin by talking about what's new this week. Well, not a lot, actually, is new this week. There have been a few announcements in the industry. One of the humorous ones is that there's now a Catan Chocolate Edition, which provides you with the ability to play some sort of rendition of Catan, after which you then readily consume the pieces. We'll know more details later, but yeah, probably not going to be in my stocking stuffer this year. I believe me, I like legacy games just like the rest of them, but that's a little bit too consumable. Other than that, preparing for the Christmas season, new games coming out. I'm personally looking forward to Charterstone, which is a legacy game from one of my favorite designers, James Stigmeyer, who did Scythe and Between Two Cities and such. So between that's about all that I've got for news this week. Let's talk about the next topic. Okay, so a question I get often, one of many as a board gamer for both casual, church, board gaming people. You'll get a lot of just casual questions about different things, certain things that you can readily answer, some you have prepared. But one of the intriguing questions I get a lot of times is, what is your favorite game? Like your favorite game? And it's an interesting question because at any given moment I don't have a particular favorite, but that doesn't mean I can't think back to a game that I think is the GOAT, to coin a very, highly used term, the greatest of all time. And I realized as I went through my collection of, all too many board games, that there is one game that stands out that no matter what, no matter when, I would play it anytime. I would never have really grown tired of it. And it really is probably the game I would put on a pedestal as this game blows everything out of the water for thematic immersion and for just cutting or seat of the pants attention. And that game, and it should be not a big surprise to hardcore gamers, but maybe casual gamers might be like, oh really, is got to continue to be Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is a game many years old now, depicting the Cold War, and it is basically the game that I think still stands on the top. There have been a lot of great games that are probably better production, games that I get to the table way more often, but nothing has really come close to toppling that. And I think it's fair to say that you can have a greatest of all time game, even one that you don't necessarily play as much as you used to, and still understand that there's a lot of games out there that are really awesome, but sometimes the game just hits in the right spot, in the right way for all time. And if a game was going to do that, it would be Twilight Struggle from GMT Games. In that game, the US and the Russians battle back and forth across all kinds of theaters of war, but it's not a war game. It's in fact spawned quite a few additional games or game styles since then that have worked well. 1960, The Making of a President, is one of its predecessors and actually is very good as well. But something about Twilight Struggle just continues to define greatness to me. That said, you're welcome to take advantage of checking it out without even getting a physical copy, because those of you who are also computer gamers as well as board gamers can get what turned out to be a great, solid digital version that you can download from Steam, I believe, and play. A decent tutorial, a great way to meet up and play with other players. Generally, you'll get your butt kicked the first couple times, but you learn. But it has spawned just an incredible amount, a community of people who love the game as much as I do. So to answer the question and to put it on record, my best game of all time, my game of all time, has got to be Twilight Struggle. And on that, let's move into our 3 games of the week. Okay, so I didn't have a lot of time this week. Things are going on at work that are changing radically, and we'll just leave it at that. But I did manage to find a few things in the collection of stuff as I was packing up my longies, and I forgot. I almost forgot my dear friend a little gift from years ago. This bear is my new co-host, at least for this episode. And his favorite game is, of course, Barren Park. Not a big fan of Bear Valley. Surprise! Nevertheless, this little bear of mine has brought me back to an attention of one of the very first games I bought to play with my kids. Tally-ho! Rawr! Tally-ho is a random chaotic game where you are in a square battlefield flipping tiles, and flipping the tiles will reveal bears, it will reveal hunters, it'll reveal woodsmen, wood choppers, ducks, geese, pheasants. The idea being, and it's kind of a little circle of life game. The bears eat the hunters, but the hunters can shoot the bears if their guns are aiming that way. The woodsmen chop down forest tiles that are trees, and the pheasants just try to run because they need to run. One side plays the animals, the other side plays the humans. It takes about 15 minutes. Probably best when you play this to play both sides just for fun, understanding that it is absolutely chaos. It's fun chaos, but your strategies are incredibly limited. You just flip the tiles and make the best of what you got. It's kind of like pachinko meets checkers a little bit, but really fun though. I'm not sure if it's still in print. The designer, rest in peace, didn't do a whole lot else after this, but this has been a shining example of a game I will not be getting rid of because it's just so doggone cute. Aww. Next, we have a total departure. If you're a reader, and I love books, and I read a lot of books of all different kinds. I read a lot of Christian books. I read a lot of history books, tons of history. Some fictional, historical fiction, science fiction, fantasy, you name it. But I really like Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth series, of which the brand new book, the third book in the trilogy, was released, and I read it in 2 days. That's 1,000 pages. I'll not soon forget. But he did Pillars of the Earth, a big game, and World Without End, which is another game, another bigger game. And I think he is doing a game for this latest third series. This one is in the middle. It's just a strange little kind of offshoot game done by Rudiger Dorn, who did Jumbo and a host of other games. But this is like tic-tac-toe with interest. How's that sound? You lay cards out, and you are allowed to grab tiles in certain patterns, like tic-tac-toe patterns. And whatever you do on those cards, as you make your way across, you can do whatever lines up in the pattern, but no more. And it's interesting because what you're doing is, on one side is building a kind of a monastery. One side's trying to build the big cathedral. The other side, the evil side, is trying to build sort of a mansion of his own. It's the tension of Catholicism or infighting of Catholicism at the time, basically. But it's really actually interesting, and the mechanisms are interesting. You'd think tic-tac-toe would be like, okay, that's corny, but it's really not. It's actually pretty good. You flip a coin you flip certain coins to find out how strong you are when it's time to attack each other. You're trying to collect resources, collect money, get special cards that let you do special actions, all in this 3x3 tic-tac-toe grid. Probably not easy to find, and probably not, maybe for everyone, but I definitely found it curious enough, and it too will not leave my collection. I'd give this a 7.2. And actually for Tally-ho, I'd give it a 6.8. It's fun, but yeah. Finally, the newest entry in my collection, Cottage Garden. This is Tetris, speaking of interesting interactions and mechanisms. You have Tetris pieces, and what you're trying to do is complete your personal garden from a main area that has Tetris-like pieces, and you're going across your base. You know what pieces are coming up, you know what's going in, and you're building a garden. And when you're done with the garden, you score points for what the garden gives. You can cover it over with different there are cats that apparently you use for special abilities. I don't like cats, and so I play games. There's certain cat games I like, but cat lovers would not like me for liking them. But this is an interesting one. It's brand new. It's the first of a trilogy. There's also Indian Summer, which is the next one, and I suspect maybe a winter variant eventually will be announced next year. But Cottage Garden, if you have someone in the family that doesn't mind playing a mostly simple game and thinks Tetris and gardening go together. Rock on. All right, and that's it for the 3 games of the week. I have a new segment I'm going to introduce each week, and that is the Guess the Picture. Up here, you're going to see a picture, and I am curious who, just as a fun little contest, no prizes yet, nothing that, who can guess what game that picture is from. So send in your thoughts, comment on it, tell me whatever, and let's have some fun. And that's it for this week. Next week we'll go into Thanksgiving, and that begins the season when I do my top 10 games of the holidays that you might be interested in buying. But until then, this has been me, and I will see you later on Harebrained Games.